Oh, cool. So my name is Chloe Mayer. I'm a junior at Temple and I'm a public relations major, which, yeah, Kaylee mentioned. It's just about building and maintaining good relationships with organizations and the people and the public. So it's fun. I'm also a communication and activism minor, which is another department we have here at Temple, which focuses more on like how to communicate exactly this topic, actually, how to communicate these um, activism things. So I am the director of community service for Temple's chapter of the Public Relations Student Society of America, which is why I'm here today. So thought this would be a fun or educational little workshop. So I just want to start with a question. What/who do you think of when I say activist? You can type it in the chat or say it, doesn't matter, whatever you feel comfortable doing. I'm not good at finding the chat, but yeah, a person who fights against something they think is wrong. That's actually perfect. That's exactly what I was thinking. I'm going to bring that up in a sec. Okay, so being an activist doesn't have to be something that big. You know, I know a lot of you probably thought about MLK and Gandhi and those kind of people, and they're great, but it doesn't have to be something that intimidating or that big, which is great. So you can be involved and it doesn't require that much effort. So yeah. So the first thing I want to bring up is this concept of civil disobedience, which someone mentioned in the chat. I'll just read you the dictionary definition, then I'll elaborate more. So it says refusal to obey governmental demands or commands, especially as a nonviolent and usually collective means of forcing concessions from the government. So this is kind of the concept of just not going along with laws or rules that you think are unjust or unfair. That's the most important part, is that you don't be a part of things you think are unfair. And that's the whole concept of civil disobedience. And that's where a lot of activism starts, is this concept of civil disobedience. Okay. So why is getting involved important to you? What concepts do you care about? Why do you think it's an important topic to just get involved in the community in any way you think? You can type it in the chat or speak. I'd love it if someone spoke, but you don't have to. Chat is way easier. So I think it's important because we live in this society, this world, so we're part of it. So everything that matters to us matters because it directly impacts us or a lot of people or someone we know. So that's super important. So I just want to start with some simple everyday actions that you can be an activist. Like I said, it's easy to get involved. It's not hard. You can just do these simple everyday actions and make a real difference in the world, which is great. So the first thing I want to talk about is to reflect on your identities and privileges. So this is just the concept of keeping in mind what lens you're viewing the world through in these topics, because we were all raised different ways. We all had different experiences, and those experiences we've had in our life impacts the way we view things. So it's important to just keep in mind how our experience has shaped our view of, events and ideas in the world. And then the next thing to do is speak up about things you are passionate about to your friends and family, even when no one is watching. This is just the simple concept of being an advocate for things you're passionate about all the time, not just when it looks good. When you're talking to your parents or your friends, if they say something that you disagree with, just speak up then. Start on like a lower level of just bringing up topics to your friends and family without any pressure, just bringing things up so they're aware. And then the next thing is to be conscious of where you spend your money when possible. So I'm sure a lot of us have heard of the concept of boycotting, which is not purchasing from a company that you disagree with, but I recently came across this concept of boycotting, which is the exact opposite, where you actually go out of your way to purchase from companies you support. For example, I support Ben and Jerry's. I just really like their company and their values and how they make social justice an important core part of their um, company. So I always go out of my way to buy Ben and Jerry's ice cream, even though it's more expensive, just to help out an organization that I agree with and I really like. So just you can make your voice heard with where you spend your money. That's a pretty direct link to making people hear you. And the main point of these simple everyday actions, since you can't vote, you aren't old enough, is to have your voice heard. And all of these are simple ways to just get your voice out there and make people pay attention to you when you don't have the typical kind of mannerism of voting, which is what we rely on. So the next thing is to support individuals and organizations online through retweets and reposts. When you see great information, when you see someone post great information about a topic that you're passionate about, you can just repost it, retweet it, and support them, which is good. That just gets more information out there, spreads awareness, which is good. And that's the goal. And I know we all are on Twitter and Instagram. It's super easy. And even just liking posts that you think have good information or important, the more likes it gets, the higher it gets on algorithms and all that. So just sharing content that you agree with is super important. And, as we all know, super easy just to hit the repost button or post it to your story. It just really helps. So then the next thing is to sign petitions. I'm sure some of you have already done this. A lot of people over the summer and even now still sign petitions, which is good. A lot of people use change.org, which is just this online website that people run their petitions through. It's super easy. You just put in your name and email and click, I want to sign this petition, and then it adds your name. So, I mean, technically before people would just physically sign papers and like write their name physically on a petition. But now it's great because it's virtual. We can do it and it takes less time and you can reach more people with it. So I personally know that when you sign one petition on change.org, they never stop emailing you. So you don't ever run out of petitions to sign. And they do make a difference. It lets elected representatives and your community know what you're passionate about, what things matter to you. And obviously it's hard to ignore a petition if it has thousands and thousands of signatures. It forces action, which is good. So I personally try to sign one petition a day. Just, I look through change.org and sign one I think is good. So that's just easy. Takes me literally 10 seconds to click and say I want to sign. So that's definitely really easy, and just keep an eye out for things that you appreciate. And then the next thing is to contact elected officials. This may seem scary, and I know a lot of you probably immediately thought of phone calls, but it does not have to be a phone call. I know phone calls are terrifying. I don't like talking on the phone. So you can do things like you can email, and if it's like a well enough recognized topic, they have templates for it. And even if not, they have templates for reaching out to elected officials. But this is a direct line of communication between you and your elected officials, which is really important. And I'm not saying that your elected officials are going to read every email. They're not. You'll probably just get an automated response. But if they start seeing enough emails come to their email about a certain topic, it'll let them know that their community really cares about it. So, it's more about quality or quantity, and then they'll start to notice. And it's definitely great. And their information is public. Since they're an elected official, you can reach out to them anytime. They have normally their address or their office building is public. You can find their email, phone number, and all that. And then the next thing is to be educated. This is more for just being an all around good citizen, just knowing what's happening in the community and world is super important. And you can do this through a variety of things. You can, or be educated about specifically be educated about the topic that you are speaking on. So if you want to be an activist for a topic, it's super important to know about it before you speak on it. I'm sure we've all heard the 5 W's and H, the who, what, when, where, how. So just before you go to be an advocate for something, just understand it, or to the best of your abilities. And then the next one is to keep up with the news. That's super important just because you need to know what's happening. And if you, like I asked before, why it's important to be involved in the community, if you haven't found like that reason, that passion for why you want to be involved, then the news is a great place to start. You might find something there that you think that you become passionate about. So, and that's super easy. I personally get I have news notifications sent to my phone, so I just get them, and that's super easy. And another thing, the easiest thing I do is to get a morning briefing sent to my email. So the New York Times sends me an email every morning, just called the morning briefing, and it has paragraphs of information that just stories in the news. It takes literally 5 minutes to read, and it's great because I'm sure, like a lot of you, my attention span is not super great. So it kind of gets you up to date on what's happening in literally a paragraph on 8 or so different stories, and you can just kind of get a gist. And I mean, if you are interested, you can obviously do more research, but no one expects you to know everything about everything that's happening in the news. So if you just have a general idea, that's a great place to start. And then the next thing is to attend physical protests. And I know that this has been hard with the pandemic, going places in person has not been the smartest idea, but this, from the eyes of a PR major, this is a really great action because it creates such a great visual. And I'm not saying that any of these things that you do on your own are not important. They definitely are, but it's just different when there's such a clear visual for the news to pick up on or for officials to see. And it's harder to ignore. People can ignore, the news, they can ignore all that. But if you are physically marching in front of them, it's kind of hard for them to ignore you and why you're there, which is great. And Dr. King, MLK, he spoke about how the best acts of civil disobedience are so public because of the reasons that you can't avoid it, and it forces there to be a civil confrontation. He was big on the concept of creating confrontation, but in a civil manner. That's how change comes about, creating confrontation. So it's not necessarily bad. It's just good that you can be out there and people can see you. And like I said, the main point of all of these actions is to have your voice heard. That's the point of democracy, is that everyone's voice is equally heard. And before, voting is, the typical mechanism we use to have our voice heard. But before that's an option, and even after, these are still just important things to do to make your voice heard and your opinions and what matters to you. Because when people know what matters to you, it shapes, our country. It's the point of democracy, is to shape or mold to what we care about. So it's just really good to do these things, and they're all super easy. So don't even take that much time. So might as well. So communication is vital when you cannot vote. Before, like I said, having your voice heard, and the way you do that is through communication. And I'm not just saying this because I'm a communication major. Our world literally runs on communication. You need to be able to effectively communicate topics just in your daily life, everyday conversations, but also topics that can be more controversial. When you're talking about topics that involve activism, it can be harder to communicate that just because of the nature of it. And these are some tips for how to communicate them in the most effective way. Because, yet again, the point of communicating is to be effective, be persuasive, not in a bad way, not in like a manipulative way, just to have others see your point of view. That's the goal of communicating these topics, is to have other people see from your point of view and, maybe change their mind. So, I just want to talk about the concept of credibility and authority first. We are much more likely to listen to someone who establishes that they have authority. We need to create that credibility. Messages are much more persuasive when they come from a source that you trust. Like if your parents were to tell you something, you would trust it more than someone on the street. So it's about creating that credibility and authority. So that goes with educating yourself. That's the first tip. Make sure you completely understand the issue to the best of your ability before speaking on it. So when you come to an argument or a conversation prepared with facts, people are much more likely to trust you and be persuaded by you, because by having facts, you establish credibility. People will trust you more. And that way, when you, like I said before about educating yourself on the topic, before you speak on something, if you're not fully educated, you may be doing more harm than help if you don't fully understand the concept. So it's important to understand the concept before speaking on it, just so people trust you, and also so you make sure you're not accidentally harming. And it's pretty easy to educate yourself on a topic. We all have access to the internet. Might have been harder before, but now we all have access to the internet. I know a lot of people hate on Wikipedia, and I wouldn't say it's a great place to get all your information. But I've found when you're trying to just get the gist of something or like a concept, Wikipedia is the best place to start, because it just gives you kind of an outline of what's happening. And then from there, you can go to more sources, more credible sources. This one you guys will have as students. I would recommend going to an online library or database and reading like academic articles. I am in no way saying you should read a 40-page academic article. I don't even read them when I have to. So, but you can just read the summary section or like the conclusion section, and that'll give you a pretty good gist of what they learned and found. And academic articles are a really great place to learn because they've been peer reviewed so many times that they're very credible. So you can definitely get the gist of an academic article from just the summary or like just the conclusion section. And then the last way of educating yourself, I really like, if you want to get involved in a certain movement, the best place to get that information is to go ask the people in charge of it. If there's like a chapter of a movement in your city, go ask them. They're passionate about the topic. They are more than willing to give you information. And who better to hear it from than the people who are running the movement? So definitely reach out to them. They're a great resource. Yeah, so the point of all this is to be persuasive. That's what you want to do, is to persuade people of your point of view. So these will help you. And the next thing is to consider your audience. I know this sounds very PR major of me, and I don't mean you need to manipulate what you're saying. You just should consider what your audience is looking for and try to understand them. That way you can frame the message in a way that will be matter to them. So to get your message across, you must understand your audience and shape your message in a way that will reach them. So just think about who they are. When you're talking to your parents versus when you're talking to your peers, you use different language. Just in general life, you just use different language or frame things different ways. If you're telling your friends about your weekend, you would tell them about all the fun things you did. If you're telling your parents, you might not include some of the things that might get you in trouble. Just considering your audience. And age matters too. So like, for example, if you're talking about climate change and you're trying to convince someone of that, if you were talking to a younger audience, you could talk more about the long-term effects, what this will do to the planet in 40 years, because they'll all still be around and it'll matter to them. But if you're talking to an older audience about climate change, you would want to tell them more about the immediate effects, things that will happen within the next 5 years and why it's so important. So just keep in mind who you're talking to and what is important to them, because you can frame it in a way that whatever they're trying to get out of a conversation, you can kind of cater to that and get what they want out of a conversation, so it'll be more persuasive. And the last thing is to keep your emotions in check. Once your emotions get out of control, your ability to influence others greatly decreases. And I know it's hard to maintain civility in all conversations, especially in topics that are more um, controversial or more very close to home for you. It can be hard, but emotions decrease credibility. People, it does. As soon as you become overly emotional, it people are less likely to trust you, and people think that you are uneducated. And I'm not saying you shouldn't speak without passion. If you're passionate about something, you should definitely verbalize that and speak with passion. But once you get, angry or you start yelling, that's when things kind of fall apart. So you just have to maintain that. And I'm in no way saying if you're in an argument with someone and they are getting angry and agitated that you should just sit back and be like, sorry, no, gotta be calm. But if your goal is to convince someone and you're speaking to a impartial audience, it's definitely just to keep things calm and rational. And I know this from experience. When I am talking to my mom, um, as soon as my mom and I don't get along all the time, and as soon as I start yelling and she starts yelling, nothing is going in and out of our heads. Nothing is going to change our minds at that point. We are past that point. We're just screaming at each other. And that's not what we want to do, because it may be good to get, release your emotions, but that's not necessarily persuasive. There is definitely a place for getting your emotions out, and that's an important aspect. But if you're trying to persuade someone of your point of view, it is much better to just stay calm and collected and try to talk, with confidence. And that goes a long way too. So yeah, feel free to reach out to me for any reason. This is my email. I really appreciate you coming. If you have any questions, you can ask me them now in the chat or speak up. It doesn't really matter. I'll answer them, or I'll try to. You can ask me about questions about Klein, because I'm in Klein, PR, activism, anything you want to ask. If you have anything, I'll just stop the share so you can talk to me if you have anything you want to talk about. But
that's awesome. Thank you, Chloe. Thank you so much for that. I'm curious if anyone has done, some of the kind of actions that Chloe mentioned. Has anyone ever signed a petition or retweeted their, public officials or anything like that? Chloe, can you pull that slide back up for us, actually?
Yeah, of course.
You can see that again. I'm curious if anyone's ever done that, or if they have any questions about how you actually go about doing any of those.
Yeah.
I know she went, really in depth with some of them, but does anyone have any questions about kind of how this works, or done these and been really successful, or done these and failed in some capacity?
Yeah.
We'd love to hear anyone's experiences. And you can use the chat, you can come off.
Yeah.
No worries. Yeah, social media, definitely.
Yeah. Before, things used to be, I don't really know what it was like before social media. I'm not gonna lie, I was raised with it, but social media is a great tool. It's so good for getting your voice heard and sharing your opinions, which is so amazing. Anyone else have any questions? Or honestly, if you've done anything cool with activism, that'd be cool. Been a part of anything. I'm sure some of you have. Um, Yeah, mostly I just stick to signing petitions. Have I mean I do do a lot of these things. I've emailed my officials before. It's not scary at all. Like I literally just had to like put my name in a template. It was super easy. Um
And yeah, depending on where you are, there's so many actual public officials you can reach out to, right? And in some ways it's not overwhelming, but there's your city council person, maybe if you know who that is, what district you're in. There's also the at-large city council people, which kind of oversee all of Philadelphia, so you can reach out to any of them at any time, and they have like particular focuses with that. And then there's the PA, representatives and
yeah.
federal. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Brianna, yes. That's a really good point. Writing blogs, that's amazing. That's so cool. You can really be creative and get your opinion. I love blogs. I've had to write a bunch, so I definitely recommend that. And yeah, Sia's movie, very bad. Oh, cool. You marched? That's really cool. I know a lot of people went to them. I went to one, but I work at a retirement home, so I was trying to, not really go out much, but I that's so cool. I know a lot of protests this summer happened, and that was really cool to watch and amazing. And it did produce change, or at least some, not as much as some people may want, but we can see the effects of that, which is really cool.
Yeah, I
Cool.
think a lot of the time I'll have friends that will say, why are we marching? Like, marching actually doesn't do anything. Like, actually standing in the street might not actually be creating that change, but seeing how many people are interested and passionate about kind of similar things. What other feelings do you get when you're kind of marching or kind of out there? I wonder.
Yeah.
Anyone else that's been kind of out?
Yeah, I know. I just in my news class or my news writing class, they was talking about the importance of having visuals and how that goes along so well with news. So it's definitely good. And from a PR perspective, getting news coverage is great. So it's definitely good. Well, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it hearing from you guys. It's really interesting. Oh yeah, you do get to meet other people like you. It is great. Like finding a community and finding your place to fit in is really nice, which is I think a lot of people find that in activism, which is so great to get involved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we will stick around, happy to answer any questions, open to any thoughts that you all have. We'll post this on YouTube kind of afterwards. So if you have others that wanted to kind of watch and see that, that would be great. Send that around. But we really appreciate you stopping by and hanging out with us for a little bit on a really nice day. So you hung out with us on Zoom on a really nice day. So thanks for doing that. But we'll stick around for a good number of more minutes if anyone wants to talk with us individually or still chat with us. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. And good to see you all. Hope you have a great rest of your day and week and month, everything.
Cool. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
And thank you, Chloe. Oh, what was the email again? Oh, my email or Chloe's email? Well, I guess we could put both. Let's put both put ours. So whoever you want to reach out to, feel free at any time.
Yep.
He is a current student. I am a staff person, but can connect with whoever else. If you have someone that, or you have certain questions, happy to help make those connections.
Yeah.
And I'll stop.